Welcome. Have you ever wished that there was an easy way to take all of those stories and pictures and posts that you put up on Facebook and download those so that you could create your own custom personal histories, your own personal books of that information? Well, I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that with our Personal Historian 3 software. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. The first thing I'm going to do is, once I've got Personal Historian running, is I'm going to go to the File menu and choose to create a new Personal Historian file. Now, this is going to be about myself, but it could be about another person or a group of people. But in this case, since we're basically showing how to import from my own Facebook account, I'm going to say it's myself, and I'm going to enter my name, and then I'm going to choose a file name. And by default, it just uses my own name, and that's fine for now, but I could change that to whatever I wanted. And I can also change where on my hard drive this new file is going to be created. So I'm just going to pick the defaults. Now, Personal Historian's asking if I have any of my information in a genealogy program and I'd like to import that to get started. So if I have data in RootsMagic or another genealogy program, I can say, yeah, import my genealogy, and it'll let me bring in people and events and notes to add to my this new Personal Historian file to kind of get me started. But we're going to go ahead and skip past that right now and enter some basic information about myself or whoever I was writing this personal history for. So it's asking for my name, sex, my birth date. If I enter my birth date in here, Personal Historian will be able to calculate my age at the various events that get imported or that I type in. If you don't enter a birth date, everything will still work. You just won't be able to see the age at those particular events. Okay, the next thing Personal Historian is asking me is if I want to import any life capsules. Now, life capsules, these are built into Personal Historian, and they're a set of timelines and events and prompts, memory triggers, so things like histories, American history, British history, Canadian history, so on. Cultural things, TV shows over the time, radio programs. It includes things like memory triggers, which are questions that are designed to trigger your memory about things you might want to write about. So I'm not going to import any of those right now. Now, I can later go back up to the File menu and choose Import, and I can import a genealogy or those memory triggers at any time after the fact. So if I don't do them right here, it's not that I can't go back. I can go just do them later. Okay, so this is what we want to talk about, importing from Facebook. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yes, I want to import from Facebook. And it gives me a little bit of information about that. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. And it's going to bring up a login screen. Now, at this point, I'm logging in directly to Facebook. So when you're typing your login password information here, you're not typing it into Personal Historian. This is actually a browser window, and you're actually logging in directly to Facebook. So we don't have access to your password. We don't save it. We don't do any of that. So I'm going to enter my password and click the Continue button there, and then Personal Historian is going to say, okay, now that you've logged into Facebook, tell us what you want us to be able to import from Facebook. And you can import your family members. That's the names of your family members if you've got them in there. And if you want to import names of family and friends, or you can say, I don't want to import anybody. Now I'm going to tell it to import family members just so I can show you what it does, because it makes the ability to publish your book or publish your history much more powerful when you are selecting which stories you want to include. Now, the next thing is it's asking if I want to include friends' posts. Now, by default, Personal Historian is only going to import your own posts. It's going to only import the things that you personally typed in to Facebook, the posts, the pictures, that so on. Now, if you check this checkbox, it's also going to include any posts that friends have made where they tagged you in them. and have given you permission to be able to see those. So if I check that, I will also get those friends posts which may be about me. Now I'm going to leave that unchecked. I'm going to also tell it I want the photos imported and the comments that people have made on those posts along with that. I'm also going to import all events. Now I can go in here and click on change, and I can say I only want events from this date to that date. Now this is actually useful, not necessarily right now, but it's useful later after I've done an import, and several months down the road I want to import anything new. I can come back here and redo this import and say I only want to do the events that were in the things that I've put on Facebook in the last couple of months. And if you don't remember the exact date that you stopped, it doesn't matter if it overlaps, because that you have an option right here where if you do import any duplicate items, it's not going to add it twice into Personal Historian. And this category right here, this lets you choose what category it's going to be put into. By default, it's put into a category called Facebook. I just leave it at that so that I know which posts came from Facebook versus I typed them in myself. And then I go ahead and I click on import, and Personal Historian begins importing from Facebook. Now, depending on how prolific you have been on Facebook, if you post 15 times a day and you put a lot of pictures, this could take a while. If you only post once a week maybe or something like that, it might not take that long. Now occasionally you may get a message something like this, unable to load picture. Just click OK. Don't worry about that. What that is usually if you've linked to a picture in the past and that picture is either unavailable because the person who originally had the picture or whatever stopped sharing it, or a picture got taken down, Facebook still tells us that there's a picture there, and then when we try to download it, it's not there. So that can and will happen. So if it happens, you just skip that. So as I mentioned earlier, there were two options when you're downloading or importing from Facebook. One was to only import your own posts, which is what I'm doing. The other was to import your own posts, but also import posts of other people that they've shared with you. Now, the reason I didn't choose to import other people's posts is because Facebook does that a totally different way, and those kind of imports started more recently. And so if you choose to import other people's posts, you're not going to get all of your posts going back to when you first got onto Facebook. It's only going to start importing more recent ones when people could tag each other and things like that in their posts. So if you do want those other people's posts, what I recommend is to import your own post like this, and then go back to the file menu and say I want to import Facebook again, and then choose that other option. That way you'll get all of your own posts, plus you'll get all of the other posts that other people have done. Okay, my new file is ready. I'm going to click done, and as you can see, here's all of my Facebook posts. Now if you've been on Facebook a long time, you'll remember that in the early days it always put your name at the beginning. So all of your titles are going to be, our Bruce is this, Bruce has done this, Bruce has done that. And so some of these real early ones are very simplistic. They don't have pictures, things like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go into what we call the publisher. Okay, I'm not going to make any changes at all right now. I'm just going to show you how easy this is just from a basic point of view. I'm going to go into our publisher, and right now I don't have any books or personal histories created, so I'm going to say I want to add a new one. And I go in here and I say what is the title of this, and I'm just going to call this Bruce Busby's Facebook Life. The legend continues. The author, well, I guess that's me, since I wrote all my own Facebook posts. Publisher, if you got one, publisher, your published place. So on whatever you want to fill out, click on next. What special sections do I want? Do I want a cover page? Do I want a title page? Do I want a copyright, a dedication, table of contents, whatever? Choose whichever ones you want. You can always add them later if you want. This is just kind of a quick to get you started. Next. What stories do I want to include? Do I want to include only current stories or all stories? I'm going to say I want to include all stories. And finally here, what way do I want to organize all of these into chapters? Now, I only have one category that I've used, Facebook. So having each chapter be a different category makes no sense right here. If I were to add additional stories and put them into categories like education, private, early life, whatever, then that might make sense to break them into categories. The second one is age. If I wanted to break it down by age, in this case it's not going to make sense because I didn't type my birth date in, so it doesn't know what my age is at these. So I'm just going to say put everything in a single chapter for right now. And do I want to include stories with no text? Usually I don't do that. In this case, every story has text, so it's not going to matter. Do I want to print the story titles and the story dates? Fine. Create the book. And what Personal Historian has done is it's taken that little wizard and it's brought it into the selections I made, and it's brought it into this publisher. Now, once it's in this publisher, I can get very creative. If you go into the help online, we've got other webinars that show how to use this publisher. It's a very, very powerful feature. But right now, let's suffice to say, I'm going to have a cover page with this. I'm going to have a title page with this. I'm going to have a table of contents. There's no options here other than selecting the fonts, because Personal Historian is going to create that for me. And then the stories. And when I select the stories, right here I'm going to see what the criteria is. And right now the only criteria is all stories. So I'm going to go ahead and say publish this book. And it's generating, and it could take a while because it's got hundreds of Facebook posts. And so let me shrink this down here to fit in the window here. Okay, so here's my cover page. The Bruce Busby's Facebook Life Legend Continues. Here's my title page. Here's my table of contents. And since my contents were just all one long run together, I just have a thing called stories. If I broke it down by categories, I would have a chapter for each one of those categories. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll just kind of scroll down, and you can see a lot of the early Facebook posts were just very simplistic one-line kind of things. But as you get going on, all of a sudden now you'll start seeing the pictures. Okay, and so you've got your pictures, you've got your your titles, you've got your text, what you've written about, you got all of this stuff right here. So I'm going to hop out of here. And it's going to ask me right now, what is the name for this book? And I can just leave it at Bruce Busby's Facebook Life. I can just leave it at that. And the advantage of this is when I come back in to my books later, after I've added more stories, after I've written more about that, I can just come in here and select this book and say edit, and it takes me right back into here where I can just click publish book, and boom, I can generate it with all the new stories that I've added since the last time. Okay, so I'm going to hop out of here, and let's go look at a couple of these stories. I'm going to hop to, let's see, I got a couple picked out right here. Okay, this one right here, this is my dad's first report card. I had posted this on Father's Day a couple of years ago, and this was my dad's first report card. Now, you'll notice that when you have something imported from Facebook, it's going to have what you wrote, and then the picture is going to be immediately underneath that. Well, let's say you want the picture to be maybe a little larger, a little smaller, maybe you want it positioned differently. So there's a trick here. What you're going to do is you're going to click and go to the very end of the sentence and press the delete key. When you press the delete key, what that's doing is it's deleting it's deleting this little invisible thing that tells the picture to kind of stay on its own line. And so at this point, I can now click the picture and go up and say, okay, I want the text wrapped around that picture. To the left, I can say I want it to the right. I click the picture, say I want it to the right. So I can have it, and the text will go and it will wrap around. If I want the picture a little smaller, I can click any of the little things and drag it, make it a little smaller. You know, you can adjust this however you want. The comments that people made on your Facebook post will be over here, and this is in the organizer. So this does not print. These comments don't necessarily print, but you can copy and paste comments from this organizer over into here. So if there's a particular comment you'd like to have included in this story, you can do that. Okay, now there's another one I'm going to show you. There's another specific one. Oh yeah, and I'm going to save these changes. There's another specific one right here that I want to take you to. And what this is going to show you is why you may want to import, why you might want to import the people. Okay, so again, this right here is on a trip to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and this is where I found out for the first time that Johnny Appleseed was buried there in Fort Wayne. I didn't know that. So I had put up a post about I needed to watch Disney's Johnny Appleseed again. Now, what I want to show you on this particular story, though, is right here. You have categories. That's Facebook. And I can go create additional categories, but this is what I want to show you. People and places. Because I told it that I wanted to import family, my wife, who I tagged in this post on Facebook, my wife is listed as being tagged here within this story as well. Okay, and places, since in Facebook I tagged myself as being at Johnny Appleseed's grave, that actually shows here in places. Now, when you first come into here, you may not see these. There's a little button right here, show less. It may look like this. So if you click show more right there, that's going to expand that so that you can see that additional information. Okay, so if I were to click on people, I would see the other family members that I have here, and if there was somebody else that was there with me, I can just click check them, and they will get added to there as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop out of here. I'm going to show you why that's useful, having that. I'm going to go back into the publisher, and I'm going to just edit this same one. If I wanted to, I could add and create a second book. So that's one nice thing, is I can import this information and I can create multiple books from that same set of information, just filtered in different ways. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and edit this one right here, and I'm going to edit the filter. By default right now, it's saying show all the stories. And it was about, you saw it was probably 200, 300 pages long. I'm going to edit the filter, and there's a bunch of ways I can filter. Filter by the title, you know, if the title has this text in it. Filter by date, only the stories. In other words, I want this book to only include stories between this date and this date, or this age range. I only want the stories that are in whatever categories I selected. I only want to select stories that are in these places. So these places that I may have been. I only want to show stories whose place name contains something. Or, this is really cool, only show stories that are within some number of miles of this location. So you could say, only show me the stories that happen within 50 miles of Dallas, Texas. You put in the Dallas, you can do a lookup and put in the Dallas, Texas latitude and longitude, and you're only going to get stories that happened within that, but you're not limited to having to have it say specifically Dallas, Texas. Any place within 50 miles of Dallas, those stories are going to be what show up in your book. Okay, people. Only show stories with these people. Now, your name's not going to be in this list because you are included with every story. But like if I go and I were to select my daughter and say, I only want to show stories that are me and my daughter. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And so now it's showing that's my filter. And I can mix and match those filters. So I can say, only show stories that mention my daughter and are between this date and are in this category. So like I say, this is a very, very powerful tool here. Okay, so I've selected that. I'm going to publish the book. And here's my book, same cover, title page, and so on. The difference is that it's only going to show stories where I've tagged my daughter in it. So as I go down through here, my daughter, she's a Disney person, so it's only going to show me the stories where my daughter is mentioned in that. Oh, actually, I need to shrink that down because that's not fitting within the window. So let's go ahead and show you right here. So it's only going to show me the stories. It's only including the stories that included my daughter. So you can see it went from 300 pages to only 20 pages here. Okay, so that's a quick overview of how to import your Facebook posts, your pictures, your everything right into Personal Historian and be able to create completely customized books. You can go in and you can add to those. You can tweak them however you need to and create the books customized to include only the posts that you're actually interested in. I hope you enjoy this feature, and we'll talk to you again soon.